God will not allow believers to be tested or tempted beyond what they can bear. Let's take a look at a great hope verse, 1 Corinthians 10:13. 1 Corinthians 10:13 is a tremendous promise. 1 Corinthians 10:13, we see several ways that a person has hope. The first part, no temptation has overtaken you, but such as is common to man. Now that word temptation there could be translated trial, could be translated test. You could even think of it as a problem. You'll notice that in some of your versions, you'll see various words there, because that word in the original language is much richer than what we get out of just the one word in English here. So think of that as no situation in life, no difficult situation in life has overtaken you, but such as common to man. That's enough hope in itself. Because most of the time we get into a very deep situation and say, it's only me. I'm the only one that's ever happened to. How can I be helped? And yet God says, no, that's common to man. The next item there of hope is that God is faithful. It doesn't say that you and I are faithful, does it? No, it says God is faithful, and He's faithful to do something. And remember, this is a promise to believers, who will not allow you to be tempted beyond what you are able, but with the temptation will provide the way of escape also, that you may be able to endure it. That is a promise. God says there is no situation where it is so overcoming that you have to sin. Never. He says, I will not allow it. I will take care of that. Back in the 19th century, there was a man named Samuel Plimsoll who was trying to solve a very difficult problem that they were experiencing in England at the time. What was happening was that very greedy merchants were loading up the ships so heavy that when they got out into the rough sea, they'd go down. Or they would load them up so light because they wanted to receive all the goods from the other end that the ship was unstable, and again it would go down in heavy seas. And so he decided that to get through the Parliament a law, and he was successful. It was called the Plimsoll Line, to draw a line across the ship at a particular point where it was to be loaded where it was most stable. And you may see those lines on ships even today. It's called the Plimsoll Line. So that when ships are loaded, they could not be loaded so that that line disappeared below the water, nor could they be loaded so that it's too far above the water. Now what's interesting is that's exactly what God paints on every believer, a Plimsoll line. God will never allow us to be put into a burden that is too heavy for us. He will also allow burdens to be heavy enough so that we have to depend on Him. But what's fantastic here, now I'm not talking from experience, I'm not talking about opinion, I'm talking about this is what God says. Now, of course, it's also a warning. If I sin, I can't blame God, can I? See, since God gives me that Plimsoll line, I can't say it's not my fault. See, but there's a tremendous amount of hope because I remember as I've counseled various individuals, particularly if they're in deep depression, the most common words that you'll hear are, I can't. No matter, say, well, you need to carry out this responsibility. I can't. I'm just hopeless. I can't do it. But if they see that this is what God wants them to do, you go to this verse and it says, but God says you can.